In the glittering, chaotic Colosseum of Hollywood, no family has been dissected by the public eye quite like the Jolie Pitt clan. For over a decade, the world watched a literal fairy tale crumble into a bitter, highly publicized war of attrition. We saw the headlines, the court documents, the weaponized PR battles. But away from the flashbulbs, in the quiet corners of the Jolie household, a profound, silent shift was taking place. While the media naturally focused its lens on Maddox, the eldest son, the first chosen, the intellectual heir, another figure silently emerged from the shadows. Pax Thien Jolie Pitt. For years, Pax was portrayed by the paparazzi as the quiet one, the moody middle child, the boy who shielded his face from the lenses. But as the dust settled on Hollywood's most explosive divorce, a different truth came to light. Pax was not hiding. He was watching. He was learning to read the room long before he could read the industry. When the family's world fractured, he transitioned from a protected child into something entirely different. Angelina, Jolie's fiercest, most hyper-vigilant protector. But to understand the weight of the shield Pax carries today, we must look at the brother who walked before him, and the starkly different paths these two young men took when their family empire collapsed. To understand the dynamic between Pax and Maddox, we have to look at their origins. Maddox Sivan was adopted from Cambodia in 2002. He was Angelina's catalyst. He was the child who transformed her from a Hollywood wild child into a humanitarian mother. Maddox was raised in the absolute peak of the Brangelina golden era, transitioning seamlessly from a world of private jets to refugee camps. He was the Prince Imperial of a new kind of global celebrity family. Then came 2007. In an orphanage in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, Angelina met a 3-year-old boy named Pham Quang Sang, later renamed Pax Thien, meaning peaceful sky. But peace was the one thing the world refused to give him. Imagine being plucked from total anonymity, from a quiet life defined by institutional routine, and dropped straight into the center of the most photographed family on Earth. The psychological shock must have been immense. From day one, the contrast between the two eldest brothers was palpable. Maddox was intellectual, calm, and naturally stepped into the role of the refined eldest sibling. He was Brad Pitt's companion in the early days, sharing a love for aviation, military history, and cinema. Pax, however, was raw, unfiltered energy. Angelina herself frequently noted in early interviews that Pax was wild but incredibly sweet-natured, a boy who carried the survival instincts of his early years. He was a child of intense emotions. While Maddox handled the spotlight with a practiced, cool detachment, Pax felt the intrusion deeply. He was the brother who would actively glare at the paparazzi, the one who refused to smile on command, treating the cameras not as an annoyance, but as an active threat. He possessed an innate, protective instinct from early childhood, a defensive wall that would soon be put to the ultimate test. September 2016. A private jet traveling from France to Los Angeles became the epicenter of a cultural earthquake. The details of what happened within the confines of that fuselage have been parsed through FBI reports, redacted testimonies, and court filings for years. But beyond the legal jargon lies a deeply human tragedy. The day the Jolie Pitt children had to choose sides, drawing a definitive line in the sand. Historically, Maddox was the catalyst of that confrontation. Reports state that the initial argument began between Brad and Angelina, and when a teenage Maddox stepped in to physically and verbally defend his mother, the situation escalated. But what happened after that flight landed is where the paths of Maddox and Pax diverged significantly. Mapping out two entirely different blueprints for survival, Maddox chose academic exile. He packed his bags and moved across the world to study biochemistry at Yonsei University in South Korea. It was a dignified, intellectual retreat. Maddox drew a hard institutional boundary. He distanced himself geographically from the Hollywood toxicity, handling the trauma through space, structure, and silent defiance. He left the war zone entirely to build his own kingdom. When asked by a reporter on campus if his relationship with his father was over, Maddox simply replied with chilling calm, "Whatever happens, happens." Pax, however, did not run. He did not seek the sanctuary of distance. Instead, he stepped directly into the vacuum left by his father's sudden absence. At just 12 years old during the split, Pax watched his mother endure intense public scrutiny, legal battles, and emotional distress. He watched his home turn into a fortress under siege. As he grew into his teenage years, Pax made a conscious choice. He would not be the one who left. He would become the anchor. Where Maddox provided emotional support from a distance, Pax became the daily, physical shield for Angelina and his younger siblings. For years, the public assumed the Jolie Pitt children were staying silent out of a desire for privacy or perhaps due to non-disclosure agreements. But in 2023, the world received a shocking glimpse into the raw, unfiltered anger Pax had been harboring beneath his quiet exterior. A private Instagram post from Pax's personal account leaked to the media. Written on Father's Day years prior, the message addressed to Brad Pitt was scathing. He called him a world-class asshole and a terrible human being, stating that his younger siblings trembled with fear when in his presence. He wrapped up the post with a devastating line. "You have made the lives of those closest to me a constant hell." The internet was instantly polarized. Some accused Pax of being vindictive and brainwashed, while others praised his raw bravery. But if you analyze the text deeply, it wasn't the petty anger of a spoiled Hollywood teenager, it was the fierce, protective rage of a middle child who felt his family's peace had been systematically destroyed and never validated. This post revealed the fundamental, structural difference between the two brothers. Maddox fought through institutional boundaries and quiet alienation. Pax, true to his fiercely loyal nature, was willing to burn bridges publicly to validate his family's pain. He became the lightning rod. He spoke out because his younger siblings, Zahara, Shiloh, Knox, and Vivienne, were either too young to speak or too bound by legal custody agreements to express themselves. Pax willingly took the heat and the public backlash so they wouldn't have to. Today, Pax Thien has carved out a unique, almost invisible space in Hollywood. He hasn't pursued the traditional path of a nepotism baby looking for acting fame, vanity projects, or red carpet validation. Instead, he has quietly integrated himself into Angelina's professional and personal life as her ultimate creative collaborator. On the sets of her directorial projects like First They Killed My Father and Without Blood, Pax was there, not as a pampered producer's kid sitting in a director's chair, but as a hard-working assistant director and set photographer, often seen carrying heavy equipment in the heat. Crew members have frequently noted his intense work ethic, his quiet, zero-ego demeanor, and his hyper-focus on protecting his mother's creative vision, but it's his role as a son in the real world that truly defines him now. Watch any recent paparazzi video or red carpet footage, from New York to Paris. When Angelina exits a vehicle, it is Pax who extends a hand first, eyes scanning the crowd. When the cameras get too close, it is Pax who subtly positions his broad shoulders to block the line of sight. When Angelina looks weary from the endless legal battles over Chateau Miraval, Pax is the steady, grounding presence, walking half a step behind her. He has traded his childhood anger for a mature, silent vigilance. Maddox will always be the pioneer, the son who made Angelina a mother, the one who took the first, hardest blows of a collapsing family dynamic, and who now stands as an independent intellectual. But Pax? Pax is the soldier who stayed in the trenches. He is the boy from Vietnam who looked at the woman who saved him from an orphanage, and decided that when the world turned against her, he would be the one to save her back. In the end, the story of Pax Thien Jolie Pitt is a masterclass in resilience and rewriting one's own narrative. He did not let his chaotic beginnings define him, nor did he let the toxic fallout of Hollywood's most bitter divorce break his spirit. He chose loyalty over luxury. He chose defense over detachment. Maddox showed us how a son can heal by stepping away and building a life on his own terms. But Pax Thien showed us something entirely different. Something deeply moving. How a son can become a man by standing exactly where the storm is hitting hardest, holding the umbrella for the people he loves. The world may never fully know the absolute truth of what happened behind the closed doors of the Jolie Pitt household. But looking at the protective, silent man Pax has become, one thing is undeniably clear. Angelina Jolie never has to walk alone through the wolves again.